Bang! Neeves knives. I'm Jared, and here we have the Twosun Ts269, and I'm going to make some pretty bold statements about this knife because holy cow is this thing impressive. Now, seeing it on eBay and, on Amazon and stuff, just the look of it, I never would have thought the level of quality that this thing has. I mean, this thing is, there's some Twosuns just have something else to them. They really do. There's different quality of Twosuns. Some Twosuns are great. Some are good. Some are eh. And then some of them are just mind-blowingly good. And I'm specifically talking about the build quality, the level of fit and finish. And all right, let me back up really quick. Thank you to Cue Ball for sending me this knife to check out and, sending me a whole bunch of knives from his collection so that I can review. Now, this Twosun, this one's in 14C 28M blade steel, titanium, frame lock, all titanium, all the way around, T8 construction. You only have one T6 on the lock bar insert, and you can see the milling pattern is insane. I mean, it's very, very well done. The pattern, and you can feel it big time. I mean, it does give a very nice texture in the hand. The inside completely milled out, like just brings down the weight, but it still has that level of weight that makes you feel like you have a quality knife in it, or a quality knife. Now, we have a satin finish that is pretty heavy. You can actually hear it, because it's a pretty heavy satin finish, which I like. I'd actually prefer this satin finish over their more polished satin finish, even though this one is still a little fingerprinty, especially with the Sandvik steels. So let's just get right into it. Let's start off with the action, and then we'll get to the ergos because both of them are amazing. So we have thumb stud action, right? Thumb stud action, perfectly centered. Now, the thumb studs are easy to get to because they slightly poke up, slightly. Now, I haven't felt them snagging on anything or anything like that, and they are kind of pokey, and we'll talk about that in a second. But because of the way they're placed and how they're placed, you basically are always on the side of them, kind of like how a Sebenza is, but the difference is that a Sebenza isn't on bearings and doesn't have a detent like this. So you get a little bit, it's more forgiving on these thumb studs, even though they are pokey, because you usually run into the side and you can actually operate it from the sides, whether it's through a reverse flick. And the thumb stud for the reverse flick lands perfectly. So even when I'm taking out of my pocket, my finger just lands perfectly on it. The detent is so well tuned. I'm hoping you guys can hear this detent. Pull the mic up a little bit. Very clicky. So when you hear that, or when like the type of detent this thing has, it kind of makes you understand like how it feels with the break, and it's so smooth that once you break the detent, it's gonna open. It's gonna fly. So the thumb studs are well placed, very easy to use. It does have a detent ramp in a perfect place. So if you're gonna have a ramp, one of these right here, these little ramps where the detent ball has a little scoop right there. If you can't see where I'm talking about this little tiny spot right there, how it's like cut out right there. That lets the detent ball get up on the blade very easily. But since it has an early detent, right here is the detent right there, you can just swing right past it. But you never have to hit it though, because it's so early and there's no flipper tab in the way. The lock bar, extremely comfortable, and look at that milling on there. Very easy to access, and it has that little bit of grip on it, so it's very comfortable when you unlock it. Very nice to unlock. Right there is the detent, but like I said, you can swing right past it, but you almost never hit it. And when you unlock it, the drop is basically a false shut action. I can tighten the pivot and make it a little slower. A lot of people like that more slowed control drop. I do too. And you can make it like that if you want. You just tighten it up just slightly a little bit more and it'll be a little slower. But either way, it's solid, rock solid. I mean, extremely, extremely solid. Now, man, that detent. The reverse flick though, you know, like I was saying, the thumb studs just land in a perfect place. So the action is incredible. Now, the ergos, you see how it's kind of, it's got like 2 layers or like 2 levels right here. It works perfectly in the hand like that. Now you do have kind of a harpoon drop point here, and you do have a little spot right here where you can kind of pinch up right there, right? And you can get kind of a pinch grip, which is extremely comfortable for push cuts or like this little pinch grip when you're just slicing really quick. Or if you're, you know, just going to hold right back here like this, how the normal grip is, very, very, very comfortable. You get a lot of leverage into your cuts. Then when you mix that with the geometry of this blade, which is really good, and it's robust. Now, a lot of people would call this like, oh, that's not a robust blade. That's a slicey blade, right? But I would beg to differ. This is a robust slicer. It's nice and thin behind the edge, decently thick blade stock, great taper, where it's very slicey, very, very slicey, a great slicer, yet it has, you know, a level of thickness to where it's going to be tough. But most people would disagree and just say it's a slicer, that, you know, it's not a tough blade. But I would argue with that because, you know, yes, it's very thin behind the edge, but this is a nice, strong blade. I mean, this is a very tough blade. I would not hesitate for 1 second to hard use this type of grind. It's like the perfect level of sliciness and toughness all together. And 15 thousandths behind the edge, it slices. It slices like a champion. And with all the good ergos and with all the leverage you get into the cuts, it cuts so good. It's so comfortable in the hand, even in reverse grips, all the grips, it's very comfortable. And you know, it passes through material very, very nicely. And yeah, I enjoyed using this thing. I carried it quite a bit because the level of quality is just so surprising. And we're going to get more into that here in a second. Now, the utility cuts are also really good. This has a nice acute tip, yet it's not dainty where you're going to think it's going to chip off because you used it. No, it's got some strength going down to the tip, but not where it's like a robust tip. I wouldn't call this a robust tip, but it's nice and fine, and it's okay. It's strong. It's not dainty. It's not weak, and it's not robust. It's right there in that perfect happy medium place where it's going to work great, and you're not going to have to worry about it. So very, very good at utility cuts. This is going to be great for opening things up or poking through things or tracing things, whatever, draw cuts, anything you need to use it for. And, you know, if you look at it, you do have a nice level of flat edge or straight edge here before you get to the belly, and then the belly just goes up to the tip. So you're going to have a great blade shape for slicing or push cuts, and both are going to be very comfortable in the hand. Now, this is a Night Morning design. Night Morning's been designing for Twosun for quite some time. I do love his, or not all of his designs, but there are quite a few of his designs that I do love a lot. Now, the clip, one of Twosun's good clips, in and out of the pocket, as smooth as you can get, super, super smooth in and out of the pocket, and yeah, it works great. And there's no movement to it. It's very solid. So, you know, and it doesn't have a crazy amount of tension. So it's very, very easy to get in and out of the pocket. And even with the texture, you don't even notice it. And, you know, it doesn't sit crazy deep or anything, but it's also not very shallow. So it's a great titanium milled clip. Now, going into this level of build quality, I'm going to pull up a couple knives here, just to give you a little size comparison, but also talk about them. This is the Artisan Arion, right? This is way, way, way more quality than this. Hands down. Anybody would put this in their hands and know right away that this does not bring the level of quality that this brings. Hands down. Now, I could bring a bunch of other knives up and say the same thing. This thing feels like the level of quality of Reate. And I know that's a bold statement. I really do. I know that's a bold statement, but it really does. It really, really does. And it has so many features that Reate has. You know, like we could talk about the ceramic caged bearings that are on a little washer that's a track. We could talk about the detent ramps. We could talk about all of that. But what I'm specifically talking about is just the feeling it has. The little fine details that make it nice and soft and smooth. How the detent is. The action. Just the level of build quality and how solid it is. I mean, it's so solid. The stop pin is nice and big. So many things are so nice about this, and I never would have thought. There's just some Twosuns that are above other Twosuns. Now, like with build quality, this is the Concept Accipiter, and it's a very, very nice knife as well. And you know, I always said that this thing has a level of build quality that feels very, very nice as well, and it does. It absolutely does. Now, I don't know if I'd quite argue Reate, though, for this one. But very, very, very good quality. But, yeah, this one, it feels like it's on another level. Now, I do have some complaints, so let's just get right into it. So, well, before I say that, I want to say 14C28N, you know, mixed with the titanium and everything. Like if you were going to argue with Reate would use 20CV or something like that. But 14C is a fantastic steel. And I appreciate getting to get the level of build quality, fit, finish, and materials along with 14C28N steel. So that's something I can appreciate. You know, would I be happier if it was 20CV or M390? Maybe, but I'm not. I don't even know. Sometimes I prefer 14C28N sometimes. So that, you know, that's, I don't know. I guess it just kind of depends on the level of price, but I don't think that this thing could be overpriced. I'm not saying that. Okay, it could always be overpriced, but the price of this thing is always going to be great. You know, like no matter what you pay for it from any of the places, you are underpaying for this. So anyways, I'll try to link it below if you guys want to check it out, if you guys want to get one. I do have affiliates with Amazon. So anyways, the bad things, because I'm gonna name off quite a few bad things, but none of them matter. So I told you guys about the thumb studs. They're pokey. They're pokey, but I don't care. I don't mind it whatsoever. I wind up not having to poke my finger on top of it and use it like that. I find that I can go right from the side to bottom or anything like that, and it works great. So next thing, you can kind of touch the blade back here, kind of. After one sharpening, not the whole blade or anything, just like kind of right here. And it's barely, like, I don't think I'd ever have to worry about, you know, you see me doing that right now. Like, I don't think I'd ever have to worry about cutting myself after one sharpening. I don't even know if I'd be able to reach it. The tip, I can kind of touch. I mean, I do have to dig for it, and I don't think, like, even in my pocket or anything, I don't think it'd bother anything, but I can kind of touch it just a little bit. And, like, one sharpening after that, too, that might be gone, too. Next thing, this right here is a little sharp right here. So I think this is very comfortable, and I do kind of appreciate it in a way because I can get pressure in right behind it because it's sharp. And I almost wonder if it was smoothed over, if I wouldn't like it, because then my finger might slide over it. In this case, it's kind of sharp, so it's like you can get pressure right behind it. But I don't know, maybe if it was smoothened out, I might not like it because my finger might slip up it. But it winds up working out, especially like with this little bit of jimping right there where it just locks you in. But it is a little pokey right there. So you do find yourself, like, especially if you hold up here and you don't go like this, if you go like this, yeah, it's a little uncomfortable going like that. You can see it's a little pokey. But I just bring my finger back. So, and then my finger goes like this for utility cuts. So not that big of a deal, but it is a thing, man. Listen to that detent. So nice. It's addicting. Next thing, the plunge grind. I don't like this plunge grind. I wish it was done a little bit better. The plunge grind starts here, tapers all the way down to almost down to the edge. Yes, you'll be able to get a bunch of sharpenings, and it'll probably just start bringing the edge back this way. Eventually, once you get back to here, you will start getting a smile. It's not a horrible choil or anything, or a horrible plunge grind, but it's not good either. It's just, you know, it is what it is, but it's not horrible though. And I have all the room in the world to put my own choil, finger choil. I could put anything on this thing. I could because the stop pin, I'm sorry if you didn't see it, the stop pin is way up here, so I could do whatever I want right there. I could add a bigger choil or whatever. And in a lot of ways, man, there's so many things you can change easily on a knife, you know, or send to somebody to change, and it's not going to cost you that much money. Next thing, this. I do not like that. Why do they have to put this pivot collar on there like that? I just don't like that. It's just too much. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of that. I wish, I don't know. I wouldn't even mind if you just said like night morning around it or something, but Twosun knives made in Yangzheng, China. I don't like that. That's too much. You know, I also wouldn't want that written across the blade or anywhere. Like, it doesn't need to be that big, that bold on both sides like that. Come on, that's a little outrageous. I do appreciate the pivot collar though. I do like the look of it. And it might not even look bad if it did come in different materials or whatever, but just all the writing around it's just a little crazy. I forgot to say, in the left hand, man, it's just as easy to use. So if you're a lefty, no, you can't flip the clip, but very, very easy to use regardless what hand you're using. You don't really get the death lock, so works out good. But I think that's all my negatives, really. There are a couple other good things, though, like with, it has the, you know, the lock bar insert over travel stop, so you're not going to unspring it. I think this thing acts as an over travel stop, too. If we can focus, yeah. So you're not going to have to worry about unspringing the lock. You know, Twosun's pivots are, like, built amazingly well. There's just so many fine details on this thing that, and it's the little things, right? It's the little details, you know, like the contouring in the little areas that make it nice and soft. All this micro milling, T8 construction, the level of build quality, you know, perfectly being perfectly centered, the detent, the lock bar, how it feels, the lock face geometry is so good. I mean, listen to that. Snaps right in place. I mean, it's so solid. It's so good. Even the owner wrote "wow" on the little when he, you know, was labeling so that I knew what number this was. It said TS269. Wow. You know something's great quality when you get that. And no lie, this thing is, man, it's built so good. So I guess that's all I'm going to say about it. I appreciate you guys watching. Like I said, I will link things down below in the description. Peace.